Mr. Kittle, I know you got some thoughts on interest rates and the Fed. We were talking before we went live. I'd love to have you share with our audience your thoughts on this and also commentary of other industry leaders that are out there opining to what's going on.
Yeah, good morning, David. It's good to be back on here with you. Here we are into the Biden presidency, coming into his last year. In 2021, Fed Chairman Powell and the Federal Reserve, they were a quarter to a quarter and a half late pulling the trigger on raising rates because of the policies put in place that were inflationary. So he had to raise past where he should have. We're probably 150 basis points higher than we could have been had he done it at the right time, hindsight being 2020. But there was a lot of call at the end of last week from industry leaders all over social media that because of Powell's comments that he may need to raise one more time for him to resign, we need to get rid of him and make a wholesale change. So I'll argue from this point today that when you're sick, which we still have high inflation, it may be moderating some, but it's still way too high. The Fed says that, the reports say that if we begin to lower rates, we'll fuel it again. And if this industry does nothing over the last 30 plus years, it wants everything right now for right now. And if we want to get rid of this and heal it, not just make us feel better for a while, we need to keep higher rates in place. And that is a bitter pill to swallow. It's policy of the administration and the Fed's fault that we're this high because they didn't react quick enough. But if we go the other way too soon, too fast, then we're going to be right back in the same boat again. And so I hate the word conundrum, but that's exactly where the Fed is.
They are.
And I'm for one that says we need to leave rates in place a little longer.
I was going to interject.
Yeah,
I was going to say, anytime anyone's saying we need to keep rates higher for a while, I'm going to say, by the way, Kittle's views do not necessarily represent the views of others on this program. But anyway, I'm jokingly on saying, chuckling with that, because a lot of people are just begging for some relief to the pain and these interest rates and what they've done. With the inflation that's there is a policy, as you and I said, it's a government policy induced inflation. So it's not actually because we've had such a robust economy and everything, but there's a lot of opinions on that. But it's good to get your comment on that. David Stevens was out again commenting, and both of us have a lot of respect for David for what he's done and many things that he's done. Don't always agree with him, but it's okay to have contrasting opinions. And I know you have to have one as well. So if you'd summarize what David said a little bit, and then we'll probably get him on the podcast here again soon. I like him. He's very articulate and I would love to have him back on. But your thoughts on some of
the I was actually just pointing out, I believe it was Dave that said that. And of course, I have great respect for David. He's a very smart man. And I just disagree with his getting rid of Powell today to put who in.
And that's what I was trying to get you to say was talk. And so listeners, what he was out there saying, we need to get rid of Powell now. And Powell's the problem is what basically what I understood from several people. I haven't actually had a chance to read it because I had such a busy week, but it came out Friday, I believe, is when he posted this. And it's, we need to get rid of Powell now. He was also dissing Biden, which is really surprising because he's a staunch Democrat himself, probably voted for Biden. And for certain he did. And him 100% certain he did not vote for Trump. But it is one of those things where right now it is a bit of a conundrum. And you said it, summed it up real well. It is a conundrum right now. And Powell has made some mistakes, but dropping rates too quickly at this time is not one. And so it doesn't look like that's what's going to happen.
The whole thing is if you're okay, you get rid of it, you replace it with somebody to do what? Change interest rates or change the direction of where it's going, which is back to my initial point. That's great short term. But if you cut 25 basis points, that's not enough. You've got to cut more than that to get where people want to be. And I've said it 100 times on this program. Elections have and had consequences, and we're where we are today because of policy, period. 2008 meltdown was a credit crisis. This is a policy. It's self-inflicted. And you just got to be careful to overreact the other way because it's going to be some short-term gain for longer-term pain.
We'll have to get Les Parker on here. I've got some questions for Les Parker as we continue on. Maybe we'll get him back on here for some commentary next week because I'm looking at what's going on in the Middle East, the instability that we have. Is that going to put some downward pressure? Now, Les is very staunch on, and you heard him along with Doug Duncan and Adam Quinones and Matt Graham. We were all on a podcast here a little over a week or so ago and a couple of weeks now, and it is getting wildly downloaded. still, because of the forward-thinking statements that both Les, Doug, and Adam and Matt said and predicting of rates. And so Les is still in the camp. Alice wrote it down. I always love that. Writes down what Les says because he's right more times than not. And it certainly looked like it was last week. And then again, towards the end of last week, we saw rates start climbing. Matt gave us more insights into it. And we're going to probably see our rates going up. So, Dave, your wish may be true that things aren't going to be dropping too soon on this. So not that is wildly shared by all the mortgage loan originators out there because we're desperate for some volume to come into the shop. Final word on that, Mr. Kittle. Now I'll get some thoughts from Alice and Alan.
No, it's probably not a popular view, but it's after
of course not
45 plus years in the business, it's a longer term view. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I don't, like I said, you look back, we're here because of bad decisions 18 months ago.
Yeah, are we just going to put a Band-Aid over the cancer? Yeah, and exactly right. Are we putting a Band-Aid over the cancer, as you were saying earlier? Or are we going to cure it? Are we going to just endure the chemotherapy, which is unpleasant and difficult and sets up other things? But are we going to endure that just to hopefully fix the problem? And then what's on the other side of it? So very interesting. Alice, your thoughts on all of this?
I agree with Dave Kittle because I think that we need to let this play out a little bit, I think is really my viewpoint. And I wanted to point out Matt Graham actually was describing the volatility in the market in decimal points because he went on to go, and I liked his term I wrote down, right on the screw. If CPI comes out right on the screw at 3.3, we don't know what's going to happen. But he gave some insight into if you're as little as 3.2 or 3.1, things could go in this direction. If you're at 3.4, 3.5, things go in another direction. And it takes that little bit of a move in the numbers to cause uncertainty, more fluctuation in the market. And because of that, we need to see that play out a little bit more.
Great point. Good points. Alan, thoughts?
Yeah, I really don't have thoughts, David.
You have thoughts, but not on this. I was going to say, you have a lot of thoughts, but just not on this topic.
If you want to sit down, come have a seat. No, I think that regardless, this is our forecast, our thoughts, our comments, but the reality is that lenders are still closing loans. The volume's down, inventory's down, but there's more education needed. There's more, and I say this every time you ask me a similar question. I specifically have spoken to LOs recently who are doing still a large amount of loans because they're teaching the borrowers that they can afford the home. Maybe it's not about a seller concession. Maybe it's about buying down or I'm sorry, the other way around, rather, not putting as much money down and realizing MI or DPA programs are out there. And we have a workforce out there. Technology is not replacing people. And the market we're going to have ups and downs all the time. And yes, we're in a down, but we should be positive and we should be looking at the ways to help educate and to continue to do business.
Yeah, you bring up the topic of DPA, down payment assistance programs. There are so many of them. I'm researching that because our oldest daughter just had a baby and she and her husband are looking for a home. And I was sharing with them about the down payment assistance, and people hear that and sometimes they think that's just for the lowest income people. That there's a lot of down payment assistance programs for those that are doing pretty well financially, that are first time home buyers. And so not every time, it's one of those things where people need to look at DPAs, down payment assistance programs. Great point, Alan. Appreciate you bringing that up. Mr. Kittle, I want to come back to you and talk to you briefly about TMC, Mortgage Collaborative stuff. You've got an upcoming conference in March. You've been busily getting some things ready for it. A lot of initiatives you have going on at TMC that you guys are putting in place that are very exciting. You want to share a couple of those with us, one of which has to do with the consulting group, which I get to be a part of. Melissa and I talked about that on Friday. But you got some really exciting stuff going on at TMC, friend. And then you got the winter conference, I guess, the one in March.
No, it's spring.
Oh, it's spring. Oh, you consider. Okay, so it's Alice. I'm not sure if the spring is found in March in Ohio.
The first day of spring.
I'm sorry, that's still winter. That's still winter, dude.
I'm sorry, man, but the first day of spring is March 21st.
Okay. So you can go ahead. That the snow on the ground would be suggest otherwise.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah. So we got our conference here.
Your spring conference. Okay, it is your spring conference.
Right. Our spring conference is here in Louisville for the first time, and it's going to be the 23rd through the 26th, I think, if I got the dates right. And we're really looking forward to that. And I was actually at Buffalo Trace Distillery early this morning in Frankfurt putting together. We haven't announced it yet, but we're going to have a really nice bourbon trail tour for some people who get in early, and bus tour during the day. We're really looking forward to that. But to your point, we're going to be launching sometime in 2024 our own internal consulting group. We're going to be a part of that. And another great initiative by Melissa Langdale and our senior team to take care and help assist our members inside TMC. So that's a really exciting initiative that we're getting ready to add. And tomorrow on social media, we'll be announcing a new addition to our board of directors. Can't do that yet, but it'll be out on social media. And we're also announcing an advisory council. Some very big names in our industry are going to be on an advisory group to our management board. And so look for that announcement tomorrow on social media.
Very good. Look forward to that very much. Thank you, Mr. Kittle. Appreciate you being here as always.
You're welcome, David. Good talking.
I appreciate you, friend. You are a good friend too.